After human resource planning, the next major step is recruitment. Recruitment refers to the overall process of identifying, attracting, screening, and shortlisting candidates for jobs within an organization. Once a pool of candidates is created, the organization moves to selection, which means choosing the best individual for the job. Selection is usually a joint effort between the HR department and the department doing the hiring. For example, if the company is hiring for a finance position, the interview panel often includes one or more people from finance and one or more from HR. The finance representatives focus on technical knowledge, expertise, and experience. The HR representatives evaluate cultural fit, personality, motivation, and whether the individual aligns with the organization's values and work environment. Together, they make the final decision to accept or reject a candidate. Selection decisions can result in 4 possible outcomes. The organization may correctly accept someone who is a good fit. The organization may accept someone who later proves to be a poor fit, leading to challenges such as early turnover or interpersonal conflict. The organization may correctly reject someone who would not have been successful, or it may reject someone who actually would have performed very well. These errors can be costly. Hiring the wrong person is expensive, and failing to hire the right person is a missed opportunity. Because of this, the selection process must consider the organization's goals, the applicant's aspirations, the job requirements, and the personality or behavioral attributes needed for success. Some individuals may also be a strong fit for one type of role but not another, depending on their competency mix, which emphasizes the importance of aligning candidates with roles rather than simply evaluating them in isolation. This process is complex. It often involves multiple interviews, assessments, and evaluations of both technical and interpersonal qualities. One approach gaining attention is competency-based HR, which focuses on the behavioral characteristics and skills required for success in each role. I will explain this approach in more detail shortly. Before moving further, it is helpful to introduce the concept of signature experiences. Signature experiences refer to HR practices designed in a distinctive way that reflects the organization's strategy and culture. Successful companies often create unique recruitment and selection experiences aligned with their long-term goals. A classic example comes from Whole Foods. Whole Foods uses team-based hiring as a signature experience. After a 4-week trial period, employees in the department vote on whether a new hire should stay. This method reflects Whole Foods' emphasis on collaboration. If your colleagues have a direct say in whether you are hired, it reinforces the cultural expectation that teamwork matters. Organizations that emphasize individual competition would design their processes very differently. Another well-known example comes from Google. In 2004, a billboard in Silicon Valley displayed a mathematical puzzle. Those who solved it reached a website with a second challenge. After completing both tasks, participants received a message saying they had made it to Google Labs and that Google was looking for the best engineers. This recruitment method attracted far fewer applicants than a traditional job posting, but it drew exactly the type of problem solvers Google wanted. A similar idea appears in the movie The Imitation Game, where code-breaking puzzles were used to identify individuals with rare analytical capabilities. A fictionalized but illustrative example of designing selection processes that match the skills being sought. Google also became known for unique and sometimes unusual interview questions. For example, if you could change the world using Google's resources, what would you build? Although irrelevant in some companies, the question aligns closely with Google's emphasis on innovation and large-scale thinking. These examples highlight how signature experiences reinforce what a company values most. Organizations use interviews widely, and one popular method is the situational interview. These interviews involve asking candidates to describe how they handled a situation in the past or how they would handle a hypothetical scenario in the future. The scenarios are typically drawn from real challenges that someone in the job might encounter. When used effectively, situational interviews reveal how a candidate is likely to behave once hired. Designing good situational questions requires care. Scenarios must be highly relevant to the job, and interviewers must ask thoughtful follow-up questions to gain deeper insight into the applicant's reasoning and behavioral style. In some companies, cultural fit is part of their competitive advantage. These organizations must design their recruitment and selection processes to attract people who will strengthen that culture. Hiring individuals who do not fit well can weaken cultural distinctiveness and, over time, erode the organization's competitive edge. It is also important to understand what interviewers should not ask. Many personal questions are inappropriate or even illegal. Still, candidates may face such questions indirectly. Applicants should prepare polite, pre-planned responses, either to answer briefly or to respectfully decline, so they can manage these situations professionally. In addition to interviews, companies often use other tools for selection. These include personality assessments such as the MBTI or DISC-E, cognitive ability tests like the Wonderlic, and assessments of occupational interests. Combining multiple methods yields more accurate evaluations because each method captures a different aspect of the applicant. This brings us to competency-based HRM, a modern approach emphasizing the competencies required to perform a job effectively. Competencies are observable characteristics and skills reflected in behavior. Although rooted in knowledge, personality, or attitudes, competencies must be demonstrated through actions. Competency-based HRM begins with building competency models for each job. These models function like job descriptions, but focus specifically on the essential competencies needed for effective performance. For example, a competency model for a sales team might include 3 groups of competencies: personal effectiveness, such as professionalism or integrity; business competencies, such as keeping up with industry publications; and sales cycle competencies, such as negotiating or qualifying prospects. Each competency must include clear behavioral indicators that describe what effective behavior looks like in practice. Behavioral indicators help employees understand expectations, enable managers to evaluate performance, and guide training and development. A more advanced competency-based tool comes from Talent Guard. Their system includes job profiles, competency lists, proficiency levels, behavioral indicators, interview questions, coaching tips, and learning resources. For instance, a retail bank branch manager might need competencies such as knowledge of organizational operations, familiarity with products and services, or back-office processes. Each competency is assigned a proficiency level, and behavioral indicators illustrate the expected actions at each level. Some organizations use these indicators to set measurable performance goals, such as resolving a certain percentage of operational issues within a defined time frame, or to identify appropriate training materials and development plans. Competency models support many HR activities. They guide training by identifying the skills employees need to develop. They support performance management by clarifying behavioral expectations. They inform succession planning, help structure coaching and feedback, and even guide compensation decisions and promotion pathways. Competency-based HRM also helps employees see a clearer developmental path, which can be motivating because competencies are transferable and support long-term career growth. Finally, another selection method gaining popularity is the assessment center. Assessment centers use multiple exercises such as role plays, group discussions, and simulations. Candidates are observed by trained assessors who evaluate their behavior in real situations rather than relying solely on self-report. In many assessment centers, such as those used in European governmental hiring, each applicant may even be paired with a dedicated observer who records specific behaviors. Assessment centers offer highly accurate evaluations because they capture how applicants actually behave, not just how they claim they behave. However, they are also costly and time-consuming and are typically reserved for critical roles. Assessment centers are valuable because they reveal the specific combination of competencies each applicant demonstrates. Some individuals excel in certain competencies but not others, making them well-suited for particular roles. By directly observing real behavior, organizations can identify the best fit with far greater precision than through interviews alone. This concludes Part 2 on recruitment, selection, signature experiences, competency-based HRM, and assessment centers.